we go. I'll start it. Here we go.
I already did start it. We're live.
There's a delay, guys. Brian, I think you need to get off and start.
It says we are live. There it is. Yes. It says we are live.
Dummy.
Okay.
Leave the room. Come back.
Yeah,
I might have to. I feel like my Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Andy. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Happy hour.
Your brother just is like, I can't leave. I know. We gotta go live like this.
What everybody witnessed right now, Dave, and I hate to bring people behind the curtain, in a way like this that might, I don't know, bring down their opinion of both of us. I'm sure everybody has this rosy view of our working relationship. We've been working together as siblings for, damn near 2 decades, whatever it is. Brian's just controlling the show, and he refuses to leave when we're just saying, pop out, come back.
It's all I was saying. The problem was the delay.
No. Dave felt it too. Dave Schilling joining us, the great Dave Schilling.
Intense.
It really was.
I couldn't understand what you were saying because you were talking about things that I had said 15 seconds before.
Dare I say, Dave,
I couldn't get out.
It was not just intense. Brian's just desperate attempt to maintain control over the show. It was unbecoming.
You couldn't get out like you were in the vow or something. You couldn't get out.
he just refused.
I can't escape. Andy's too charismatic. I can't leave him.
We're like, Brian, we're not kicking you out of the show. Just step out and come back in.
Let's be professionals here, for God's sake.
I entered one building that I was about the dangers of psychology, and all of a sudden I just couldn't get out.
Yeah, Memory's laugh has summed it up very well. FOMO, LOL.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, guys. If there's another delay, I am leaving.
Wow.
Wow. There is a problem again. Your internet is not good.
This is a Brian thing, correct?
Brian's internet is not good. Brian is frozen again. He looks like Mr. Clean.
I'm having
a Mr. Clean that's trying too hard to be smart.
Like a poorly drawn cartoon of Mr. Clean. Yeah. Can we talk without him for a second? Because he doesn't know what he's way behind us. Look at this. This is not great.
You know what? In 15 minutes, Dave, he's going to welcome you to the show.
Hey, that's how far Dave, so good to see you. How's it going? Well, we're almost done here, so not great.
All right, we'll move forward without Brian, and hopefully he'll come back in. But
plug a hard line to the internet, Brian.
Well, exactly. He may have to hardline it and even do dial-up. Like a dial-up might actually improve this connection right now. I hate to take him back to like 1997 and AOL. But
he could do a hotspot with his phone. Remember, Brian, there's a little box here at the bottom of the screen that says everyone can see and hear you. So let's get it right. Anyway,
so how have you been, man? What's been up?
Well, I don't know if you noticed outside. It's poison. So
yes,
I've been inside a lot. That's okay. I'm very excited about the Lakers situation. I wanted to get into that tonight. So that's a thing that's going on in my life. I'm really happy that football is back. My fantasy football team is doing very well right now. It's just a good time if you're a sports fan to be alive. If you are alive for any other reason than to watch sports, maybe not so much. But right now, if you love sports...
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Late Night Happy Hour here with the Kamenetzky brothers. Very excited to welcome Dave Schilling to the broadcast. He is a writer, a journalist, People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive for 2012. This is it's just a great night for us. How is everyone?
This show has become the equivalent of the American flag upside down. We've really.
I'm doing great. Welcome back. How's it going, Brian?
Oh man, Wi-Fi is a bitch.
What are you on a telegraph over there? Is someone drawing you like a courtroom?
All of us live the Schilling lifestyle where we can have
I'm doing
good Wi-Fi. Give us a break.
We were talking about football is back, Brian. I think this is not something I expected that we would ever see football again because of everything that's going on with the pandemic, it seemed like they were not going to be able to get it together because they're not really doing what the NBA is doing. The NBA has a bubble and everybody's protected. The NFL is just kind of like sort of almost pretending like this isn't happening.
You know, it's funny.
It's actually worked.
We talked about that on Friday. Yeah, well, it's interesting. We talked about that on Friday with Jordan Rodrigue, who covers the Rams for The Athletic, and we're definitely going to get specifically into the Rams and their game last night. But she really feels like thus far the success the NFL has had, you know, week one in, has basically been falling ass backwards into it, because she agrees with what you're saying. Like the planning on their part, like any type of really systematic planning, like we've seen from the NBA or the WNBA or soccer, really has not been there at all, or the NHL. Like she doesn't really feel like they actually fully accept or understand what they're up against. It's just so far working out okay.
Well, I'd like to give the NHL a lot of credit, because right now I am aware of as little about the NHL as I am in normal years. And so that means things are going well for them, because I don't know what's happening. I don't know who's in the playoffs. I don't even know where the games are happening. They could be happening in Bulgaria for all I know. And they could be being broadcast on a satellite.
At least some of them are in Edmonton. That's basically the same thing.
Sure. Yeah, it's like Videodrome. It's like you got to move your satellite dish to get hockey. So good for them that they're doing that. MLS started with their bubble, and then now they're playing their games in the home markets, and that seems to be going okay so far. They announced another segment of the season, because they're kind of going in these sort of segments where it's like, okay, we'll see. We'll play 10 games. We'll see how that goes. If that goes well, we'll play another 10 more, and then hopefully we'll have the playoffs. WNBA, NBA obviously are doing their bubbles, and that's worked incredibly well, to the point where now baseball is going to be doing their own bubble for the playoffs in a way that I am very uncomfortable with, because that means the Dodgers are going to have to play playoff games in Houston, Texas, or Texas, and anywhere in Texas. I think maybe it's actually Arlington. Doesn't matter. Unacceptable that the Dodgers cannot play playoff games in their home park. I hate that. But the NFL is taking the opposite stance and saying nothing is different. We're even going to have some markets that are going to have fans. There were fans in Cleveland. There are fans in Kansas City. There are fans in Jacksonville. Not that many. What does that bring to the atmosphere of the game?
That's my question. Like, what is it? It's like, how does it looks worse, I think, to have 6,000 people spread around a 90,000 seater stadium than it does to have nobody there. Like, I mean, I guess there's a little bit of revenue, but I just don't understand, like, aesthetically what you gain from it.
Yeah, I feel like the Jaguars ought to just do a GoFundMe. Like it would be a little bit more dignified than having like the 6,000 people in there.
It makes the beginning of every Jaguars game look like the end of every Jaguars game, where there's nobody left.
The Khan family doesn't need money. They are billionaires. They didn't need to fill that stadium to begin with. So the fact that they're like, well, we'll sell 5,000 tickets or 6,000 tickets, it just doesn't make any sense. It's almost like it's like if you go to Thanksgiving and your parents are getting divorced and they kind of like hold hands and like hug just to like make you feel like maybe this could be normal.
Sit together.
There's nothing normal about this. Your parents are getting divorced. It's over. They don't love each other. They'll never love each other again, and it is your fault. And that's how I feel about the NFL.
Oh, this took a dark turn. It's
late. It's late night. This is my therapy session for the week.
This is not for children. If there's any children watching, they shouldn't be.
Why are you watching this? You should be watching pornography.
Well, the good thing, Dave, is you can actually, because it's on streaming, you can watch on half your screen.
Second screen.
You can watch the show, and on the other half, you can be quite frankly, that's what I assume most people are doing when they watch the show.
Or they just forgot to close the browser or something. Yeah. Let me ask you guys this question. If the season takes place and there are, let's say, between 5 to 10 positive tests in the NFL, is that a success? Or does it have to be 0 for it to be a successful
Over the course of a whole season?
Entire 16 games, playoffs.
That would be a massive success.
You think 5 to 10 is a massive success?
Oh my God. If they managed to get through 5 to 10 this week, I would have been pretty surprised.
What if there is 1 serious hospitalization out of 10 people?
I mean,
I still think it's, God, this is so ghoulish, but yes, I think that's a success.
The idea of playing NFL games right now is ghoulish to me.
I was going to say, in order to evaluate this in terms of a success, you have to remove, honestly, any type of morality from it. Because if you really were looking to do this from the most morally safe place possible, you would either be doing the NFL in some type of bubble like the NBA, or you wouldn't be doing it at all. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to be doing it, then you have to have realistic expectations of what would be considered successful. And, obviously, if there were 10 COVID cases, one of which, required a hospitalization, that would be terrible for the player involved. And you certainly hope that player would have a speedy, safe recovery. But in terms of 30 teams with a 16-game schedule, and the size of rosters,
right, with each of these
size of staffs, realistically speaking, that would be successful. Again, the moral question of whether or not they should be doing it is a separate and a valid question.
Right.
But I don't know if you can use that to evaluate it there, because otherwise the answer becomes then they shouldn't be playing.
Right. I think we've probably mostly moved on from the question of if they should be, because they are, and it's happening.
Right at this point,
I hope it happens safely, and I hope that they minimize the amount of risk these players are under. That said, I think there is one positive, and I think this is a positive that is very important to LA sports fans, is that without crowds, Jared Goff can hear everything in his ears at all times. Sean McVay can talk to him about whatever he wants. Sean McVay can read Great Expectations to him, and he can hear all of it. And I think that's one of the things that's
what Rob Pelinka would do if he were Jared Goff.
Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
He would be reading him literature through the headpiece.
Jared Goff is a quarterback that needs someone to tell him what to do. And I'm not saying that because I think he's an idiot. He's not an idiot. He has a degree that he earned from a university. But he is not, let's say, Lamar Jackson. He is not an improviser. He does not have that flair and that sense of genius.
He's not a yes-ander?
No, he's not. He's not. He didn't go to UCB. He should.
The only thing separating from Jared Goff from Lamar Jackson is the ability to improvise.
Let me tell you something. If you've ever seen Patrick Mahomes do a Herald, that guy just kills it.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
He's just very quick and fast on his feet. I just think Jared Goff. You saw this on Sunday night. He managed that game in a way that he's never done before. He's always had to make big plays and be spectacular when they're great. When they're up against it, like in the Super Bowl, when it's an incredibly tight game and they're not able to run the offense maybe the way they want to. Jared Goff falls apart. When that pocket falls apart, Jared Goff falls apart. Unfortunately, now he can hear everything because there's no crowd. He doesn't have to worry about, can I hear anything in here? Can you turn up my monitor? He's good. So I think they're going to be better than most people think because of that particular issue.
The thing with the Goff thing, it drives me insane because I can't figure out if he's good. Like I really wish I could come to some sort of conclusion.
Right. We're never going to really know. I think Phillip Rivers is another quarterback where it's like, yeah, he's got good stats, and they win between 7 and 9 games every year, so he's pretty good, I guess.
No, but Phillip Rivers has been doing this for a long.
Jared Goff will do this for a long time. Jared Goff doesn't take a lot of punishment.
Good.
Sure, I think Jared Goff is good
anymore. He may not be very good anymore, but he's been good. Like Jared Goff Andy, every time we talk to anybody about football, my first question is always, is Jared Goff good? And, he's obviously not terrible, but they're paying him $11 billion. He's, supposed to be a genuine franchise quarterback, not one of these guys that, you sort of Andy Dalton your way through.
Well, no, but I mean, here's the thing though. If you're a good quarterback, you get $11 billion. That's the way this works. So the idea
if you're a quarterback that you think can't be replaced, you get $11 billion.
Right. That's a good quarterback.
No, not necessarily. Is Andy Dalton a good quarterback? Andy Dalton got paid.
I mean, back in the day, Andy Dalton was easily an upper third quarterback. I mean, that's not even debatable.
Yeah, no, actually it is. I think it's absolutely debatable.
No, earlier in his career, no, it's not debatable. He was in the upper third of the league. Certainly in the upper half.
There's an important thing that needs to be said here. We have 32 NFL teams. Arguably, only about 25 of these quarterbacks are good, and about half of that are great, and maybe 4 of them are exceptional.
Right.
There are not a ton of quarterbacks sitting on the sidelines waiting for their name to be called.
Exactly. Which is why guys get paid, because
Jared
Ryan
Goff,
Tannehill is better than who's over there.
Jared Goff is an NFL quarterback. He has been to a Super Bowl. That is hard to do. Granted, there are certain starting quarterbacks in NFL history. I'm looking at you, Trent Dilfer. Go Bulldogs. I love you. Fresno State, baby. But not a very good quarterback, ultimately. Not a Hall of Famer. Will never even sniff the Hall of Fame. But he has a Super Bowl ring. So that's not always the case that, you have to be great to win a Super Bowl. But you do need to be kind of good to be in the Super Bowl. And Jared Goff took a team to the Super Bowl. There's something to be said about his skill. He's physically gifted.
He clearly doesn't
make great decisions. He makes a lot of very difficult passes. He did have a great receiving core the last 2 years. I'm not sure if that's the case now, but he's talented. And I think to slag him off is unfair. I think he does have a problem playing in big games and playing in situations where the decibel level might be too high for him to hear what's in his headset. I will give him a lot of credit for that Monday Night Football game against the Chiefs. That was the performance of a great quarterback.
It was great. No, he was. My question always about Goff is, how good are you when you in a clean pocket, when he can stand there and deliver the ball? He's really good, and he throws a good ball, and he threw a couple passes in that Dallas game on Sunday that were great. The one that he dropped to Van Jefferson was spectacular. That was a great pass. But the pocket's not going to be clean for 17 games.
That is the problem.
Offensive line, right? And that's where I think you talked about him managing the game on Sunday. If you have a great offense and a great team, and the year they went to the Super Bowl, nobody got hurt, and the offensive line was intact for the entire season, and all these other things. That rarely happens in the NFL, and you need your quarterback to be able to elevate your team sometimes. And there haven't been many moments where I feel like Goff takes an average performance from the people around him and elevates it in ways that other quarterbacks do. And I'm not saying he sucks. There are a lot of quarterbacks that fit into that, but it also means he may not be great. And to some degree, the Rams are kind of counting on him to be great.
Well,
they're paying him like he's great.
Yeah, that is the thing about the quarterbacks who can, quote unquote, improvise, the quarterbacks who can move and take a broken pocket and a broken play and find a way to get positive yardage. He's not there yet. He might never be that guy. So the Rams should be focused on having the best offensive line in the entire league. And I don't think that they do. They haven't had a great offensive line since the Super Bowl season. So I am worried about him. That said, is there somebody out there who's better? I will quibble, and I will always quibble with the idea that you needed to give up a ton of picks to draft Jared Goff number 1. That, I think, Les Snead deserves a lot of credit for building a team that went to a Super Bowl, that went from the dregs of the NFL in St. Louis to being an elite team that's on national TV.
7-9 bullshit. That's what
exactly. Yes. Yeah. The Jeff Fisher era of the Rams, and all the way back to after the Super Bowl seasons in St. Louis. Like, they were bad long after that. But at the same time, did you need to mortgage your future for Jared Goff? I don't think so. I really don't. Could there be a scenario where the Rams are a better football team today if they had been bad another couple years and then maybe been able to draft someone like a Lamar Jackson? Probably.
Sure.
Because that's
where they didn't draft. You end up with somebody in the third round. You end up where you have all this other talent that's available to you. It's not just the Goff thing. I mean, I think trading up to get a quarterback that you think you need, because Andy is correct. Even if you have to overpay for a quarterback who may not be great, and I'm still not convinced Goff is that guy, you still have to have a guy who's good enough to, you have to be at least this tall to ride the ride.
I mean, he is by definition good enough to get you to a Super Bowl. Correct. Because he literally did it.
Right. And, I think you have a far smaller margin for error than him than somebody else does, than you do with a better quarterback. But he's still, like you say, definitionally can get you there.
There are other guys where you have a smaller margin for error than Jared Goff.
Right. Yeah. Most of those teams aren't going to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. That's why it's hard to argue with the
statement that Jared Goff is a good fairly middle of the road starting quarterback right now in the league. I mean, is that fair?
He's the most middle of the road, most average?
I mean, he's middle third.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, God forbid he be Mitchell Trubisky. Like, you have to think your lucky stars.
Mr. Comeback? Are you forgetting about Mr. Comeback already?
Yes, I am.
Lit up the Lions.
He had some balls on Sunday that looked like he was trying to aim for one of the empty seats. That guy's terrible.
Don't be an asshole, Dave. He led a huge comeback in the fourth quarter against the vaunted Detroit Lions over the weekend. When was the last time the Lions let a game like that go? They never do that. They never do that. The lion, it's like an actual lion has taken hold of a game and is and that's like trying to take a game from the Detroit Lions and Mitchell Trubisky to you and me. I think the big thing is when he went from Mitch Trubisky to Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
Since then, he has been nails.
It's like Lil Bow Wow to Bow Wow, isn't it?
Kind of.
He's bad. He's bad. Sam Darnold is bad. These guys are bad quarterbacks. And so you have to give the Rams a lot of credit for at least finding someone who can win games, who is able to win big games, who is able to take a team to a Super Bowl. You can say what you want about the pass interference call in New Orleans and whether or not that was, the correct call by the referees, but the fact that he was able to lead that comeback with that game is impressive.
Let me ask you this, though, Dave. With what the Rams are going through this year, and this was supposed to be the grand opening of SoFi, and this was supposed to be this big, big moment for the Rams in their franchise history and also their return to LA and carving out that ID and their place in a very crowded Los Angeles sports universe. How much do you think COVID and what's going on this year puts them behind the eight ball in terms of what they're trying to do?
Not at all. I don't think so at
all.
I think there are people watching sports, regardless of the fact that they can't go. There are people at home, they're watching sports. I think it's a shame that they can't invite fans into the stadium now. But I don't think that not having fans there is going to make it harder for the Rams to be popular. The only thing that's going to prevent the Rams from being popular is if they're bad. That is it. It doesn't matter what their logo is or their uniforms are or how charismatic Jared Goff is if he ever ends up on Jimmy Kimmel Live or something. What matters is if
the better he plays, the more he looks like Ryan Gosling. The worse he plays, the ugly. He's like a poor man's Ryan Gosling. Like he's like the guy who thinks he's good looking but really isn't.
Yes, exactly. He's like Casper Van Dien from Starship. They have to win. They have to win. You could see it was getting better when they went to the Super Bowl. When they went to the Super Bowl, people were wearing Rams jerseys and hats, and people were talking about it, and it was a big deal. If they go back to being bad, no one will care. As long as they're on national television every once in a while, as long as they're winning football games, they're going to be more popular, and they're going to be more and more popular. There's a reason why the Raiders were the biggest football team in Los Angeles Still, maybe.
I think they still are. I don't think.
Because they won a Super Bowl. That's it. It has nothing to do with anything else. There's no magic formula to be successful in the Los Angeles market except for winning championships. The Lakers are the most popular team in Los Angeles because they won 10 championships here. 10. Okay, if you grew up in this town in the last 30 years, you've seen an NBA championship for the Lakers. You've seen them be great consistently every year. The best players, the most exciting fan base of celebrities and models and all kinds of people. That's why they're successful. There's no other reason. There's no magic formula. It's not because the Lakers logo is the coolest or their colors are the best. It's because they win championships. The Dodgers became popular in LA because they won championships. And the Dodgers will remain popular because they won championships recently enough that people still care. If the Dodgers go another 30 years without winning a title, guess what? People will stop coming. People will not care about the Dodgers.
Right. It does help the Dodgers too that they keep not winning the World Series, but they also keep getting there or getting
just enough to
the NLCS. Yeah. So like if you keep showing up in the championship rounds or you keep showing up in the actual the round right before the NLCS, whatever it might be, if you keep showing up there, people will give you credit for that. It's when you become the Marlins.
Clippers.
Well, okay, let's talk about that for a second.
Okay, sure.
By the way, you've been doing some strong trolling over the last couple of days on Twitter
yes.
with the Clippers. Congratulations.
Yes. I'm in a basketball group chat. And there are a couple Clipper fans.
Right, just because Andy he mentioned the pornography before doesn't mean you have to go there.
Well,
I was going to ignore it and move on.
And a legit tongue twister, legit.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm in a group chat that's mostly about basketball, and there's I think 3 or 4 Clipper fans. After Game 6, I think all of them left. They are all just like, I can't do this anymore. Goodbye. I find that to be obnoxious. But it gets worse when they start saying, I'm not going to watch the game. You know what? I don't need that. I'm not going to watch. What do you mean you're not going to watch? You're not going to watch Game 7, the biggest game in Clipper franchise history, because you don't want to be sad? You don't want to be sad.
Wow.
Listen, I'm a Dodger fan, okay? The last 5 years have been sad. The 5 years before that were sad. The 5 years before that were sad. And you're telling me, I don't want to watch because I know they're going to lose.
Clayton Kershaw, Dave, is a Shakespearean tragedy.
That's so sad. Game 7, they had every chance to win. They were playing at home. That the Astros cheated to win the World Series.
Which, by the way, actually...
Not even a conspiracy. It actually happened.
Right, and that actually, I think, in a weird, perverse way, actually helps the Dodgers in terms of what you were talking about before, Dave, with like winning. And, winning keeps you popular. And, the lack of patience that sometimes comes with losing. Everybody knowing that the Dodgers lost that series, at least in some part, because of what the Astros were doing, cuts them something of a break.
Yeah,
it does give them some degree of break, and people look back on that whole debacle differently now than they did in the moment.
I think it's fascinating to see how the Dodgers went from the big market, multi-million-dollar Cadillac super team with the best of the best of the best players to the plucky underdog who got robbed out of a championship. Just in an instant, as soon as the Astros scandal broke, people were sympathetic for the Dodgers. There is now kind of like almost like a David and Goliath thing that the Dodgers are experiencing, where there's this real affinity that the city has. I was going to go to the Joe Kelly mural in Silver Lake, just because, I might as well take a picture with it. There was a line all the way down the block for people to take a picture with the Joe Kelly mural.
Really?
Yeah. Just people with their kids. They all it's not like there was a security guard saying, well, okay, let's have an orderly line here. People were just like standing in line, not really socially distancing either.
I was just going to ask that.
But there were people out on a Sunday just having a good time, taking a picture with the Joe Kelly mural. Joe Kelly, who, by the way, pitched for the Red Sox in the 2018 World Series. Right. I hated him.
Joe Kelly, if we're really being honest,
he broke Hanley Ramirez's ribs. Are we all forgetting this?
Okay. Of course, because he made a face once.
If we're really being honest about this, and I thought this in the moment when I was watching the game, I'm not 100% sure, or even close to 100% sure, that first pitch that went at his head was intentional. Joe Kelly was so damn wild that whole game. I don't think Joe Kelly is capable of throwing a pitch that close.
He's a raw nerve. I don't know
if he can can do that.
Yeah, how would he be able to place that pitch so effectively?
Joe Kelly can't do that. That guy has no control whatsoever. No.
And we saw that.
That's what I think is so funny about this, is that he's become like, the one guy who spoke for all of us, and he threw at him. He took all that we were feeling and put in that one pitch. Joe Kelly was struggling that whole inning to put anything in the strike zone.
He's a folk hero now, and that goes to how deeply beloved the Dodgers are in this city at this moment. And the Clippers should, hypothetically speaking, have that same kind of underdog cachet. They don't, because there is this feeling within Clippers fandom of, well, it's our time, and this kind of entitlement to the status of the underdog, for the status of the good guy. I see these tweets all the time of Clipper fans saying, how could you root for the Lakers? They win all the time, and they're evil. They're the evil empire. My God. It's sports. There are actual evil people in the world, and you're saying the Lakers are evil. This kind of mythologizing of sports and the painting of good and bad in sports, I find to be anathema and disgusting. Well, don't do that, Clipper fans. If you want people to like you, and if you want people to sympathize with your plight when the Clippers definitely lose Game 7 to the Nuggets, then shut up. Let go. We've heard enough of your belly aching about how no one respects you. No one respects you because you are the team that's flopping, that's complaining to the referees, that their fans are going around with pitchforks for anybody who dares say that Steve Ballmer is not a benevolent dictator billionaire. I mean, just stop it. Stop. Steve Ballmer is trying to build an arena no one needs in Inglewood, that the city doesn't really want, just because there's this inferiority complex that's so deeply ingrained within the Clippers that it just came out of nowhere. As soon as the Sterling stuff happened, Clipper fans got this kind of idea of themselves as these plucky heroes. And it's just not the case. They're just a basketball team.
Well, I mean, you can't be the plucky hero when you had two guys basically force their way to your team.
Right.
Like two A-list, legit.
The Clippers are a super team.
Right. They had and by the way, I'm not being critical for them for being a super team.
Building a super team. Exactly.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that. But you are no longer the plucky, streetlights versus spotlight team when two superstars force their way to your team. Nobody forcing their way
up, by the way, the Lakers. Paul George passed on the Lakers twice.
Right. I mean, nobody forcing their way to the Kings. Nobody is forcing their way to the Grizzlies. Those are the plucky underdog teams. Nobody goes there willingly if they have any other choices. And damn sure nobody ever forces their way. Nobody ever says, you're trading me to Memphis or nowhere else. That's the one spot I'm going to.
Also, there's no curse. Okay, if you think there's a curse on the Clippers, you're wrong. Okay, I don't believe in superstition, really. Sure, it's fun to think about how the Browns are cursed or something. No curse.
That goat thing with the Cubs was pretty strong.
That's real.
Yeah. The exception that proves the rule.
The Clippers franchise from Buffalo to San Diego, to Los Angeles has always been bad. They've always been bad. The Buffalo Braves, I think, went to the playoffs twice in their entire existence, then moved to San Diego. Then they sign Bill Walton 2 years after he wins the MVP and wins an NBA championship. He gets injured and is out for 68 games. That's not a curse. That's just bad management. Then Sterling buys the team, and there's more bad management. Now they have probably, in my opinion, the best front office in the NBA. I remember they had an event for season ticket holders after they traded Blake Griffin, because everybody was like, "Oh, this is the end," and they're just shutting it down. So they tried to get ahead of it, and I will give the Clippers PR team and front office a lot of credit for saying we're going to be out front and we're going to be very candid about what we're doing. So they have this event. They invite me. This is when I was still a sports journalist, and I talked to Jerry West. I talked to Lawrence Frank and tried to like figure out what the hell they were doing, and they said, we want to have a certain kind of team. We want to build a certain culture here. We have an idea and we have a vision for how this team is going to look. And they did that. And they tore it apart and they built it up, and now they're a championship contender much faster than they should have been. And that's not just because of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. That's because they put together a team with Montrezl Harrell, with Lou Williams, with Patrick Beverley, with these guys who are really, really hardworking, exciting, fun players who really want to win. Getting Zubats was unfortunately for Laker fans a steal. What a great move that was.
No.
Every Laker fan knew that guy was going to be a talent.
Well, it's not even that. It's also
just who you traded him for. It's Mike Muscala.
Well, the Mike Muscala of it. B, it was also them. And what was infuriating is Rob Pelinka was asked about this, afterwards, was this basically a tacit admission that you guys did not have enough of the shooting that a lot of people thought that season would be a problem for you guys? That you'd look at that roster and say, okay, where is the outside shooting going to come from? And Pelinka gave this very long, flowery response about how that wasn't the case and blah, blah, blah. And I think that might have been the same press conference where he did the trolley story.
Yeah, this was when Pelinka was in
the trolley story.
Right. And it's just like,
I love the trolley story.
My God, I hope you're lying, because if you're actually telling the truth, that's even worse. Like if you actually don't think the problem is the shooting, but you just thought it would be better to have Mike Muscala than Ivica Zubats, that's even worse.
Yeah.
He wanted JaVale McGee. That's it. I guarantee you, when you look back on it, he'll probably be like, I just really wanted JaVale. And I didn't want Zubats. I wanted JaVale real bad.
There's no reason you couldn't have still had him. It was just the whole thing was a really bad idea.
Terrible.
Let me ask you, because I think you're talking about two important things here, because the first one is the Clippers, as I think Laker fans understand at this point, which is why Laker fans often spend a lot of time talking about you don't talk about fan bases and other teams that you genuinely don't find threatening. Like, you don't do that. They're like the ex-girlfriend that you can't quite get over. You talk about her all the time. The Clippers are an exceedingly well-run organization. They really are. And like you said, Ballmer's got fuck you money to the point where he will build an arena that is probably not going to be profitable. I'm like,
it can't be, because there's not going to be any concerts.
Right. They can't put anything in there, and he doesn't care. He
had to buy the Forum just to make sure that there wouldn't be concerts.
If the thing loses $500 million a year, it doesn't matter really, probably to it won't, but it doesn't really matter to the guy that rich. He's that rich.
It's an ego stroke.
And so, but when you get to that, like the Clippers have gotten this close, and if they lose this series and don't even make it to the Western Conference Finals, two questions, take them in either order you like. How hard is the trolling going to be on the Clippers franchise and Clippers fans?
I'm already getting tingly thinking about it. I know there are Clipper fans watching who are like, I hate Dave, but you know what?
That's fine.
Well, you already upset the Rams fans with what you said about Goff. They've been screaming at us on Twitter.
Been very active
I think he's good. What?
Well, they took exception to you. They took exception to you portraying him as a guy with a huge reliance on his headset. Did
you watch the Super Bowl? What, you think he's just out there calling the plays himself? I love the Rams.
A nice counterpoint.
I'm a huge fan of the Rams. I bought my son an Aaron Donald jersey, even though I don't even think those jerseys are good looking. Anyway.
Right, but so how bad is it? Because Laker fans are
Dave Schilling with the counterpoint.
The Marcellus Wileys of the world are all ready to just stick it to the Laker fan and this and that, and the clip ship is going and this and that. And if they don't even get there because they blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, who I think are an excellent basketball
team, they're a great team.
Beyond the point. How bad does it get for them? And then what does that do for I think that does some damage, I think, psychologically to the organization.
I think it's devastating. I think in every way it is devastating. I do think Kawhi will want to prove something next year. I think there will be a desire to just run it back. But I think psychologically for the fans and for the franchise itself, it would just be gutting. They'd be devastated. But we've been here before with the Clippers where there's expectations and those expectations are missed. And I think that's why Clipper fans are responding this way. And I think that's why it's so fun to troll them. It's because there is that desperate need to impress your big brother. If we beat the Lakers this year, they'll respect us.
It's also, there's that.
I've never had that impulse.
Well played. It's not even just the idea of wanting to beat Big Brother, even though, that is a thing. It's also, too, because winning championships is really hard. Yep. It's really, really hard. And any legit opportunity that you have to win one, if you don't, it is to some degree a largely wasted opportunity, particularly if, you look back on it and you wonder if this could be the case for the Clippers. If you look back on it in retrospect and say, we weren't dialed in enough, we weren't really focused in the way that we needed to for whatever reasons, because the Clippers have looked really disjointed. And this whole season, there's been a lot of assumption that they were going to be able to, at some point as a team that had been coasting, and, they've been doing some load management out of necessity and things like that. But there had been this assumption, certainly externally, maybe internally, I have no idea, that there was another gear that they could get to, maybe even another couple gears that they could just flip that switch, even though there was no template of them ever playing together. It's very unusual to see a team that really has no history together be given that type of credit. I'm not playing the card right now that the Lakers have been disrespected this season, because I don't think that's the case. I think the Lakers have been very.
And that, by the way, is a card that Laker fans are leaning into heavily. Everyone picked the Blazers. Everyone picked Houston. Charles Barkley picked the Blazers. That's it. No one else did.
That being said, though, I do think that the Clippers had been given more of a benefit of the doubt this season than the Lakers in terms of being able to crank it up another level or two. That their highest level was automatically higher than the Lakers level, even though we had seen the Lakers play all season at a higher level than the Clippers.
Well, I think part of it is on paper, the Clippers are a better team. The Lakers, before LeBron James decided to come here, were terrible. The Clippers, when Kawhi Leonard and Paul George decided to come here, were already a pretty damn good playoff team. So you look at where each team was when these big moves happened, and you say, all right, the Clippers, who were already pretty damn good, they add arguably one of the top 5 best players, definitely the best wing player in the NBA, at least in my opinion, both offensively and defensively. And you add Paul George, who is an all-star. Maybe not the guy you want with the ball at the end of the game in the playoffs right now for a variety of reasons, but he's an all-star. He's an elite player. He's a great defender. He can score. You think this team on paper should be fantastic. They should be impossible to score against because of their wing defense. They should be really hard to out-rebound because of the presence that they have in the front court. They should be the best team. They are on paper the best team. But on the court, so far, it's been much closer than it should be between the Lakers and the Clippers. And I don't know what's going to happen in the Western Conference Finals if the Clippers beat the Nuggets. But I think it's going to be a tough matchup, and I think the Lakers end up winning that series.
If they get
LeBron James.
If they get through, what do we take from it? Like, because I've been a coin flip. I've been, 55-45 Lakers over the course of the season, 55-45 Clippers over the course of the season. Like, how much do you think it's fair to take what we saw in the second round and apply it to the third? Because there's no question that the Lakers have looked better in the playoffs than the Clippers have. There's also no question that both teams, I think, that the Clippers have played are better than the teams the Lakers. Dallas is better than Portland, and Denver is better than Houston. And so that means something. So what is it? How much do we take from what we've seen here to apply to the next round, making sound basketball analysis without jumping into recency bias?
Well, I will say one, I want to point out how important it actually was that the Lakers took the seeding game seriously at the beginning of the bubble. Being the number one seed mattered. To play Portland and then Houston was a massive improvement over having to play Dallas and Denver. Two young, fun, exciting teams versus Houston, which is imploding as we speak, and Portland, which is understaffed to the nth degree, and they had to fight and claw just to get to the playoffs. Damian Lillard basically put himself on the cross just to get to the playoffs. So I'm glad the Lakers did what they did. That said, I still think the Clippers are the better team. I really do. I think that they have better personnel. They're deeper. The Lakers bench terrifies me. The fact that Rondo is playing major minutes terrifies me. I know there are a lot of
playoff Rondo.
I know there are tons of people who will go to bat for Rajon Rondo and his brother, but I'm not that guy. There's a better player out there who could be coming off the bench and playing major playoff minutes than Rajon.
How awesome is it? Like, how on brand is it for all the people involved that Russell Westbrook got into a shouting match with Rajon Rondo's brother, who ends up getting ejected from the game? Like, this is so perfectly on brand for Russell Westbrook and presumably the Rondo family. Like, this just feels perfect for everybody involved.
The Rondo aficionados will say this is why you have him on your team. It's because he will antagonize the other player. Russell Westbrook didn't need antagonizing to be bad in that series. So I find fault in that logic. You've got Dion Waiters, J.R. Smith, Rondo. These are guys who have been on the scrap heap for years now. This is like when I was a kid and my parents would take me to Toys R Us and they're like, have anything you want inside that bucket. It's like, okay, because it says $9.99. Oh, there's a Nintendo Virtual Boy in here. Oh, there's Congo action figures. How exciting. Rajon Rondo is the Congo action figure of the NBA. It's like, well, okay, this will do. At least I got a present.
Did you go with Ernie Hudson? Like, which
no,
Congo?
I got the monkey.
I didn't know if you went like Ernie Hudson. Was there a Laura Linney action
There's
figure?
There's a Tim Curry action figure that keeps eating the cake. You remember that?
that is a depressing toy. Like,
it's going to be a 7-game series. If these two teams meet, it's going 7 games. I don't see.
But see, the only thing I would I think you're right, except I'm not sure because part of what we say about the Clippers, they have more depth. So much of that is built around the idea of Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. Harrell has been terrible in this series. almost unplayable, probably unplayable if Doc didn't insist on playing him. And he is, and it's not like it's going to get easy. You don't go from like, okay, the Lakers will figure out ways to make him guard Anthony Davis. And I love Nikola Jokic, but like, Anthony Davis is like just as much of a challenge. So it's not like it gets easier. If Harrell sucks and Lou hasn't been that good either, he's sort of been quietly tiptoeing through the Trez wake right now. They actually don't have that much more depth in the Lakers because now you're talking about two superstars, and the Lakers superstars are better than the Clippers ones because nobody believes in Paul George.
The X factor in this series, Zubats, baby. This is going to be Zubats' series.
Zubats revenge series
to dominate. That's right.
After every bucket, he should just scream Muscala.
If Doc Rivers was smart, he'd be playing that guy more minutes. But that is the person who is getting most of the ire right now from Clipper fans. And yes. Doc Rivers gets a pass a mile long for the fact that he endured through the Sterling season. And that he's now kind of ingratiated himself to Clipper fans and the organization to such an extent that they can't fire him. They simply can't fire him. So what do? If it doesn't work out,
like quarterbacks, you have to know if you fire Doc Rivers, who are you going to get that's better?
Mike D'Antoni.
Imagine. Oh my God.
I mean, I like Mike D'Antoni. I think he's a great. The problem with the Rockets is not Mike D'Antoni. It is Daryl Morey putting that team together and them not working. Russell Westbrook was a mistake.
Right, you can't fire Doc Rivers and hire Mike D'Antoni after what Mike D'Antoni just came off of.
Yeah, it's sort of like you guys both did the Spider-Man meme.
That's not going to work.
I know, I agree.
Phil
Jackson. Hell yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
That would be the best FU to Laker fans of all time. It's like just back up the Brinks truck for Phil Jackson.
Actually, they already have Jerry West. They already have the Forum, and then they go hire Phil Jackson.
Or they could just hire Jason Kidd. Who cares? I don't think they.
Randy Fund.
At that point,
Rambis is available.
You get West, you get the Forum, and then you go get Phil. At that point, you're essentially the character in The Incredibles who's just collecting and killing all the superheroes.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing at that point.
Bring back all the former Laker coaches and put them on one staff. Bring back Phil. Phil's the head coach. Then you've got Rudy T, Byron, Randy. Yeah.
Is Del Harris still alive?
Luke?
I think he is.
Actually, most of these names that we keep throwing out there, Laker fans would be like, okay.
That's how Laker fans respond to the Clippers in general.
That's true.
Good luck. Okay. And the one time I think people were really mad.
Watching basketball, the Clippers hired Phil.
Yes, Del Harris is 83 years young and still with us. So
thank God. Shout out to John Tyson for that great response. I will stop watching basketball. I will move to Sweden if Phil Jackson becomes. There it is again. John Tyson.
I'm going to be honest.
Beautiful family, John.
Brian and I covered 5 or 6 years worth of Phil. He's obviously a great coach. He's an incredible quote. I mean, you want to talk about a coach who made our jobs just, light years easier just from his pre and post game comments. That being said, we saw the influence in New York of Phil being there and demanding the triangle be run. If you want to crap away 3 or 4 years as the Clippers learning the triangle, I think most Laker fans would say have at it.
The game has passed the man by. It's passed him by. You can't run the triangle offense.
Oh, Mike Brown. Yes, they bring back Mike Brown as well. Bring back everybody.
Mike Brown. Yes.
I am not letting him have Bernie. Bernie is the winningest coach in Lakers history by percentage. They can't have him. And he had glorious moments.
Oh my God.
Stretch. It was that stretch of Bernie Bickerstaff as the head coach of the Lakers was the single most entertaining stretch we've ever had.
Did they get Dunleavy? Is he?
Dunleavy's still there.
Yeah, go get Mike Dunleavy.
Still got text messages about Elton Brand.
Took them to the finals.
I actually think for Laker fans, it would hurt a hell of a lot more if the Clippers hired Byron to be on the staff than Phil. I think Byron would really hurt.
You know,
like that would feel like
that's just a guy going home to the team that drafted him.
I guess.
I'm okay with that. That's fine. That's gonna happen.
All right, we're getting close to the end of the hour, and I need to ask you this because you are notoriously well dressed. You are a person who is known for this on the Twitter machine. You send out things, people know you are sartorially informed.
You've got the drip, Dave.
That's right. That's what the kids say.
Is there a pill for that?
We've had people on talking about what happens to the Hollywood industry, what happens to sports. But most of America has not worn pants with a belt in 7 months. We are, in a place where, even when people kind of go back to work, a lot of people who wear work clothes may not be going back to an office anymore. A lot of remote. What happens to clothes and like the fashion world and people who sell clothes, people who design them? What happens in this world?
Well, it's a good question because there are a lot of retailers that are shutting down. A lot of places, fashion houses that are having a serious problem because a lot of the fashion industry is designed around the churn of the retail space, right? It's like you need to have certain things that Barney's is going to buy or the Nordstrom's is going to buy or Macy's is going to buy. And then you get the display and then you sell through and then you have another season. The fashion industry is built around seasons and, fall and spring, summer and all that stuff. That's going away because people don't have the sort of same needs that they used to have. The idea of spring and summer as things get hotter, unfortunately, due to climate change, summers last longer. Certainly in Los Angeles, summers can last into November now. A lot of places, a lot of companies that I think a lot of people listening to this probably frequent all the time. J. Crew, Brooks Brothers, these places are going out of business because they're so enmeshed with the idea of brick and mortar stores and having locations to sell clothes. The companies that are succeeding are companies that sell comfortable clothes. Number one, there's my finger. Number two, these companies are selling things on the internet that they are not necessarily overproducing so that they can sell to various stores around the country. They're producing what they need. They're keeping their back stock so that they can sell it throughout the year versus, we're going to have to just destroy a bunch of these clothes because nobody bought them. Burberry, I believe it was $30 million worth of clothes.
They burned it. They burned them.
They burned it because they didn't want to discount it. Because they have to make more clothes for the new season. So all of this stuff, they don't have a place to put it. They can't bury it in the desert like Atari buried those ET video game cartridges. They have to do something with it.
Nice
I'm old. So they set it all on fire. That's insane. That is not the kind of loss you can take if you are J. Crew, right? So the companies that are going to survive are the ones that can sell you clothes at any time of the year, either through their own e-commerce portal or through something like the Mr. Porter app. This is not an ad, but Mr. Porter is like an app that collates a bunch of different fashion brands for men, and they sell accessories and home goods and stuff. And so you can sell through to the luxury clothing customer without having to have necessarily your own marketplace that's expensive to operate, your own shipping that's expensive to operate.
So what do people wear? Like you talked about comfortable clothes, but what are people going to be wearing? I
mean, I dress up for myself. I dress up because I don't want to feel like a turd. But there are a lot of people who do wear sweatpants all the time and wear pajamas all the time. That's fine. When I go to the grocery store, I'm going to dress up a little bit because I want to feel like I still have some connection to the real world, to the way things were before. But But I think people are going to, wear comfortable clothes. I remember in the mid 2000s when I was in college, a long time ago, everything was skinny. Like skinny jeans were a thing.
God,
That
yeah.
was what meant you were a hipster. Is I wearing skinny jeans? That's gone. That's not coming back. It was already going out before, but now it's definitely not coming back. Elastic waistbands and everything are just going to be like expected. Looser silhouette.
I'm kind of leaning into that.
Lakers Unfiltered says, it's weird, but dressing up to go grocery shopping is my thing now. That's right, Lakers Unfiltered. This is Los Angeles, okay? We don't live in Poughkeepsie or Des Moines. We need to look good when we go outside. LA, take pride in yourself. I know it's dangerous to go outside right now. Meme Maurice Last says, I was rocking the jorts, J-H-O-R-T-S. That's not how I spell jorts, but that's fine. In 2000. Jorts is not my thing. But, dress up. Dress up. It's fine to dress up. It's good to dress up if it makes you feel better. If you're more comfortable in sweatpants, that's fine. I think the lesson everyone should learn, dress for yourself. Don't dress for trends. Don't dress for what people tell you to wear. Be yourself and be comfortable. And that's fashion.
It's interesting that maybe it's just because of the worlds we live in, but, you hear a lot about the big retailers going under and J. Crew and all that. I got a couple things in my house now. I mean, it's hard to shop right now. It's because where am I going? So it's like, I don't know what I'm going to, all that stuff. I don't need it. I don't need to spend the money and whatever. But, the restaurant, we talk about restaurants, we talk about sports, we talk about work, we talk about this, but how people dress, the way they dress, the way they go to work, all these things, people may never wear ties again.
Ties are already going out.
Entire sections of the wardrobe are going to disappear.
Ties are not a sacrosanct part of the male uniform anyway. That's a thing that just kind of came into fashion, I guess, in the 19th century or something. I don't know, but ties don't have to be around. Nothing has to be around. That's the thing I think people are trying to figure out is all the things that we took for granted or this will always be here are not always going to be here because they're not necessary. Ties are not necessary. Going to an office is not necessary. Nothing is necessary except that you have to eat and you have to sleep and you have to go to the bathroom. Everything else is just created.
What would be the closest you think to something in fashion that would qualify as necessary? I mean, I don't mean literally just wearing clothes because that's the law. You're going to get arrested otherwise. But if you had to pick something that qualifies as necessity or the closest thing to it.
You have to wear something. George is back. You have to wear something on your feet. Because if you do a lot of walking around outside, it's gonna hurt. You're gonna step on a rock or a piece of glass, or your feet are gonna burn because.
But beyond functionality, do you think there's anything that has become ingrained enough that people would think of it as necessary?
If I don't wear blank to this, I'm gonna look ridiculous.
I feel like jeans have reached a place, particularly somewhere like California or maybe along the coasts, where you can get away with sort of, business casual, broadly speaking. I think jeans have maybe reached a place of necessity.
I could be wrong. I don't wear them. I don't like how they look. No, I don't like how they look. I'd rather wear any other pants. I don't like jeans. They're coarse and annoying, and they're too casual for me. I feel like you should wear jeans if you are going prospecting for gold. If you're not prospecting or you're not
you don't know Andy that well, that's how he spends most of his off time is prospecting.
I go pan.
I'm something cool right now, but Brian's gone.
Pan.
Oh, here you go. I don't like jeans. I don't like how they look. You can wear jeans if you want. There are people who look good in jeans. I don't like them. There's nothing you have to wear. I think that you still have to wear a suit to a funeral because you want to show respect to the person who died. But at some point, even that's going to go away. There's nothing in our world right now that will last forever.
You made the joke about shoes. I love shoes. I have 3 kids. There's a limit as to how much I'll spend on them. But if I were rich, I would have all the shoes.
Mhm.
I started like kind of getting into watches like over the last year and a half, like stuff. Do you think we reach a point where the clothes, like the casualness kind of goes down, but the attention to detail in casual clothes like comes up, so people know like, oh, that guy's dressed really well, but it's just not formal in air quotes like it used to be? Like, is that what the evolution becomes?
Well,
accessories, bangles, Dave, bangles.
I think people will be dressing.
Where do I need when the pandemic ends?
Sweatpants is a good thing to talk about for this topic, because you think of sweatpants as just trash that you put on your body. It's the sartorial equivalent of going to hometown buffet. It's like, I just don't care. I don't care what it is. I just have to eat right now, so I'm gonna eat this.
Under the late night happy hour brought to you by Hometown Buffet.
Yeah, you guys wish.
I'll take it.
Exactly. Sweatpants are not something that is just interchangeable. Okay, there are better forms of jersey. There's better materials. There's better construction for even sweatpants. You can get sweatpants that taper a certain way to make your figure more attractive. Like, there's tons of different kinds of There's expensive sweatpants that will frame your genitals to make them look bigger.
Dave, do you have a specific brand you would recommend for genital framing?
When you have juicy on your ass, Dave, what color does it tend to be?
Purple and gold, baby, because I love those Lakers. Let's go. Showtime. Buy nice sweatpants. If you're gonna buy stuff, buy nice things. Do not buy things that are poorly made. Stop shopping at Zara, Golden Corral. Come on, we aren't savages. I do love a Golden Corral. That okra, the fried okra at Golden Corral is no joke. Buy less stuff. Don't shop at Zara. Don't shop at H&M. Don't shop at Topshop. Buy nice things that last, and develop a sense of style that is more thought out than just, well, I guess everybody's wearing this color right now. Like, don't do that. It's wasteful. It's bad for the environment. I'm sorry. To try to buy nice things that last. Your wardrobe will be instantly better. You will look better. A lot of cheaply made things don't fit well on people. I know. I've seen tons of sports writers. They all dress like crap.
Yeah.
You're listening to this person. I know who you are.
I mean, there are a few who, are typically quite dapper.
Yes,
but,
yes. There are some out there.
Brad Turner from the LA Times, for example, impeccable dresser. He's fantastic. Jay Adonde.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Tanya Ganguly has she has very good style. But there are a lot of people who don't, sadly. Yes. And I think that that's a shame, because they're not dressing for anything other than necessity. And the dressing is important, but dress for yourself and for other people, I think.
This was actually really important that you gave that kind of list, because one of the last questions we had from Twitter was from Jordan Rodriguez, our friend who does such a great job covering the Rams.
How did she dress? I'm just kidding.
She was super excited. We had her on Friday, and she was so excited that you were coming on, and because she was concerned about. She says she needs to learn how to dress better, and so
tell her to DM me and I'll give her some tips.
But that we have now a list of things, and I typed them up. It says buy nice things, buy less stuff, buy things that last, buy things that fit. Is that a
things
pretty?
That are flattering to your figure? There are people who wear jeans that don't fit. There are people who wear shirts that are too small or too big. Like, it doesn't matter where you got it if it doesn't fit. You could have the most expensive thing in the whole world, and if it fits you poorly, then you might as well be wearing a burlap sack.
I hope that helped her, because I think she was a little intimidated. She's big, as she told us, quote, "I'm a big Dave Schilling fan."
She is. And specifically, it was specifically because Jordan Rodriguez thought you could help her along these lines. Like she, like a lot of people across the internet, Dave, know of your fashion sense and frankly look up to you because of it.
Consider you a role model.
It's a burden. It is. People send me free clothes. I get sent free clothes. That's how great my life is.
Pandemic.
It's amazing.
I don't think we have time to do the wrestling stuff, so we'll have to come back to that next time.
Oh, no. Joggers, guys. Joggers. Lakers Unfiltered. Let me say one thing about joggers before we go.
On joggers.
Joggers are kind of over now. That said, you can wear those in a casual situation. I wouldn't say that a jogger is going to be a thing that you're going to wear and you're going to feel like cool and fashionable. But you can look good in a pair of joggers. It's just like that novelty is worn off, I think, a little bit.
Okay.
Anyway.
Andy, anything else?
No, this was very
Dave has been very generous with his time, and we would like to be able to have him back at some point.
We'll see about that.
I said we would like to.
I play your cards right. You don't know. I could maybe. We'll see.
I wouldn't commit to it if I were you either. I think you're handling this.
I would hold out for a better offer, frankly.
I would leave the door open, but I would not want
what Giannis is doing with the Bucks right now. It's like,
that's right.
I would make sure that you get Brian and I to commit to going over the luxury tax for this show.
What are we going to do with our cap space? I think that's an important question.
There's no cap space for this show.
All right, what do you got to plug for the people?
Okay, so I would love if you haven't yet read my New Yorker humor essay about Austin Powers.
Oh shit! I didn't even realize that.
I wrote a thing for the New Yorker. Yes, you can Google New Yorker Dave Schilling; it'll come up.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, I know. I'm a very impressive person, which is weird that I'm doing this show.
Yeah, I know.
I know. I should be doing like.
It's the equivalent of when high-powered attorneys do pro bono work. I get it.
I should be doing like The Herd or something. That's a classy show.
Classy show
like The Herd.
They could put you on the other side of that huge studio behind the glass, the way they do with all the guests.
No, I'm going to come down from the ceiling like a Mission Impossible and be like,
Ray Travis program.
Stop saying all that stuff about Cam Newton.
That studio is massive.
It's too big. It's too big for a show about sports where one man talks to you.
It's like, I mean,
it's as big as the TNT studio is now when they have the four guys split apart, but it was like that before COVID and there are only two people in it.
It's now they're just all competing to have the biggest studio. Anyway, please read that New Yorker thing. I think it's very funny. Tweet that out. Yeah, it's I won't tell you what it's about. It's about Austin Powers, but that's about it. I'll tell you. And listen to my podcast, Full Court Chat. Season 2 just ended. It is a comedy podcast about sports. So the people listening to this right now probably would like to hear something funny after all of this. That'd be nice. It's a joke. This is another. Come on, we had a good time. Everybody was very funny on this. So Laker Unfiltered, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
It was awesome. It was awesome, wasn't it? It's even more awesome if you listen to this show every week and you listen to my podcast, Full Court Chat with Dave Schilling.
As you should.
And leave a review and all that stuff.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Thanks,
I'm looking right now in the headline. You're referencing off the bat Peter Bogdanovich. I hadn't thought about that potential influence, but if you start thinking about what Mike Myers looked like in the movie, like, sort of get it.
No, just read it. You don't know what this is going to be until you read it. Okay?
Wow.
But I've already got your clicks, so I don't care. Hopefully none of you out there have run out of your free articles.
All right, I am gonna tweet this out right now at Cam Brothers. Read this piece on Austin Powers. I'm sure it's fantastic.
It's very funny. It's my New Yorker debut. So
all right. That's impressive. Like,
I know.
I've never written anything like that. Never will. Nobody's gonna put me in a cool place.
Probably
like
not.
I've seen your work. Not going to happen. Tomorrow night, Keith Knight, creator of Woke on Hulu.
That's cool.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
He's really successful.
Yes.
He's staying up until 1 a.m. his time to promote this show. So, I mean, that's how dedicated he is. Wednesday night, Jeff Pearlman's got a new book coming out about the 3 Lakers. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Thursday, Tanya Ganguly. We'll get ready for
the aforementioned smartly dressed Tanya Ganguly.
Yes.
Tell Tanya I said hello. I haven't talked to her in a while. She's in the bubble, right?
No, she just got back.
Oh, she's out. Okay, that's good. Well, yeah, give her my best. I don't want to have to text her. Just you guys tell her.
We will.
It's actually the purpose of this show is for us to deliver messages to other people.
If you could maintain my friendships, please. I don't have time.
Jordan Rodriguez had a message for you, which we delivered. Now you have a message. See what else. And we just book people based on who the last person had something to say to.
Jordan, you're great. Thank you for your coverage of the Rams on The Athletic. If I could afford a subscription, I would.
It's for $1, Dave. They're giving away for $1 a month right now or something.
I mean, a whole American.
You really should have had
those parties.
If you guys are giving out free ones, I'm just kidding. She's wonderful. She's doing great. The Athletic is awesome. Yeah.
All right.
Good job.
We've taken up enough of your time.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks a lot.